Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for attending today's webinar. My name is Laura Hodgkiss, and I'm the Event and Training Team Leader here at the Staffordshire Chamber of Commerce. Firstly, I'm so pleased that you could all attend today. We've got quite a high attendance, so really pleased for that. I'm going to be introducing today Dan Ellis from EPX Technical Services. Dan is going to be talking to you today about how to be an effective remote worker. And given the current climate and where we are with everything, I imagine this probably applies to all of you in some capacity or another. So with that in mind, I'm going to pass you over to Dan, and I hope you enjoy the webinar.
Hello, everyone. My name's Dan Ellis from EPX Technical Services. I'm just going to get the presentation going. Right. Firstly, a little bit of housekeeping. For those of you who are not familiar with webinars and have not done this before, I can't hear you. I can't hear what you're saying. I can't see your camera, etc. This is just a broadcast from myself. If you want to ask any questions during, then there is a Q&A function which you'll be able to use, and I will try and get to those as we get through this. So, firstly, about myself. I'm an IT engineer. I am a techie. I apologize for this. I don't plan to get too technical in what I'm going to be talking about today. I'm going to try and keep it pretty high level, and I'm going to try and talk human. I am a massive advocate for remote work. Any of you who know me on LinkedIn, you'll see pictures I'm uploading of cafes or restaurants that before all this that I used to frequent whilst working. I've been working pretty much on my own for about 18 months. And with my team back in the office. However, of course, of the last recent corona, we've all now switched to completely remote working. We've always had the tools, we just never needed to do it. So about 2 weeks ago, we told everybody, isolate, go home, work from home. And that's what we've been doing. So I've got a couple of stories about, what my experiences have been, what my colleagues' experiences have been, which I'll go through. So firstly, what this is not, what this presentation will not be covering. We will not be covering anything medical. I am not a doctor, neither is Facebook. Get your medical advice from the NHS and 111. I'm not going to tell you anything about washing hands. Government grants, we won't be covering that. The gov.uk and the Chamber of Commerce themselves have got some excellent information on that you can gain access to. HR and legal advice, what are we allowed to recommend speaking with your legal advisors or your HR company about those? Check with them. I'm not going to go step-by-step technical on anything. This is just high-level information on what you might be able to use and what you can do yourselves to get some remote working methodology underway. Finally, it's not up to date. And what I mean by that is I only last tweaked this presentation about an hour ago, and given the rate of information that's coming, I would remind everybody that if you're watching this next week on recording, or you're watching it now, double check some of the facts, whether working home from mandatory or not, what technologies are out there. A lot is changing. Double check before you commit to things and do your research. We're going to be covering today 3 main topics. I'll divide the whole presentation up into 3 chunks, and there'll be a summary at the end of each one. So, firstly, working remotely. This is helping the team do whatever it is they do from their house or from a remote location. Communicating. This is a lot of people forget how to communicate, how your team can communicate with one another while they're all working from home. And also how you and your company are going to effectively communicate with your customers when you're no longer traveling out, meeting with them, when you're not in your building anymore. Finally, a little bit on the human impact and what it feels like to be working in a solely remote-only environment, and what it can feel like after a few weeks of working on one's own. So to get started, section 1, working remotely. I'm going to start off with a little bit of information about the current state of broadband in the UK. Because there's been all sorts of bits of information flying around the press at the moment saying that, our broadband's going to be overloaded, everything's going to be a disaster, and then completely conflicting reports saying, no, everything's going to be fine. So a few stats on broadband just for a little bit of peace of mind. Yes, some services are indeed running slowly. There was a big issue with Microsoft Teams about a week ago. Yeah, because hundreds of thousands of people suddenly signed up to it in a couple of days. There's lots of little things out there that are running slowly, but the internet itself is running well within capacity. We do not have a problem there. Just for some perspective, this is a fun graph that BT were kind enough to provide via the BBC. The highest ever level broadband activity recorded 17.5 terabits a second during some form of sports game. Regular usage is about 5. We're currently about 7.5. So the current state of broadband in the UK, we are well within capacity. And as such, some broadband providers, some domestic broadband providers, they've even been removing the limits from their broadband package because they know and they acknowledge we're going to be working at home. We're going to need this internet activity. Right. One of the reasons why some programs have been running slowly is because there's millions of new users. There's going to be growing pains. There's going to be little issues. As some nice examples, Netflix, they decided people don't need to watch every single movie in 4K super high definition anymore. So they've turned that speed down a bit. Certain web conferences, they're not as high quality right now. They've turned that quality down a bit. Fine. Microsoft Teams have some features where it says so-and-so is typing a message. Okay, well, that's now not checking as frequently. They're taking away certain luxury features that you don't need in the interest of expanding and making their services scale. The Microsoft Azure platform only this afternoon or this morning came up with an announcement saying that they were having some capacity issues. I mean, you're going to see things like this, but this is growing pains only. The broadband infrastructure is solid. Some of you may have seen issues with mobile phone usage. I know that on my normal landline and my normal mobile phone, I've had issues with people getting through. I've had issues getting through to people. Just try a couple of times. Little errors like this are going to happen. There's been a surge of mobile phone activity. On the flip side, though, there's been an actual downturn in mobile data usage. So if you're having any trouble getting on your internet for any reason, you'll probably find that your mobile phone can actually do better. There's been a 5% decrease in mobile traffic ever since coronavirus because most people are at home using their home Wi-Fi. That's a nice one to remember. So where to begin getting your business in the cloud, or I say in the cloud, remote, giving people the ability to work remotely. There are loads of ways. I'm going to start off by saying this. There's loads of ways you can work remotely, loads of different technologies, loads of different tools. I'm not going to cover them all. I'm going to cover a few major headings that will apply to the most companies I can possibly help. So first, make a list, job role by job role in your company, and make a list of what services your team need to function and carry out their business. Now, a list of what I mean by services, and we'll go through each one in a little bit of detail. Email, right? Nice, simple one. A lot of users are on either G Suite or Microsoft Exchange delivered through Microsoft Office 365. But most of the time, if you can access email on your mobile phone, then you have the ability to access your email from another computer if you wish. Talk to your techies, talk to your IT people. If you've got an internal IT person or an external IT person, talk to them, figure out how you can get access to your email remotely. Most people will already have email available remotely already. That's one of the easier ones. Plus, I'll cover it in a little bit more later. There are ways to avoid it. Next, file sharing, accessing files on your server. So this is a lot of companies have the shared drive, or they'll have you'll access a file through SharePoint or Google Drive or OneDrive. There are loads of ways you can access your files on your machine, a lot of which are cloud-based, some of which are not. Make a list, figure out how you access your files, and there will be a way of accessing them remotely. I'm going to go into a little more detail on that in one of the next slides. Your accounts package. Now, I remember Sage Line 50, the classic version. It needed to sit on a server, but that was a long time ago. A lot of businesses now, you've got Sage in the cloud. You've got Xero accounts in the cloud. You've got QuickBooks in the cloud. If you can access the program through a web browser, that should be enough to start with to get you going so you can work remotely. You can still access your accounts function. I've just spent the last couple of minutes explaining accounts, and it says CRM on the screen. I was reading ahead to the next line. Okay, I've already covered accounts. Let me backtrack to CRM. Your CRM, that is your customer database. That is the list of all your customer contact information, the last time you called them. There are loads and loads of different products out there for this. I don't know what you're using. ACT was a very popular one that was bundled with Sage a long time ago. There's Zoho CRM, Sugar CRM, Salesforce.com, really simple CRM. There are loads of tools out there. Some are even a bit industry specific. So whatever your customer database is, if you access it and use it through a web browser, you should be good to work through the cloud. If not, there's some items on the next slide that will cover for that. The next item on the list is your phone system. There is a whole section dedicated to this later on in the presentation, but a lot of phone systems can be accessed remotely or allow you to forward call. Go into a little bit of that if you're having some concerns there. Line of business systems. This is the items A, B, C, D, E, A to E on this slide. They're items that nearly every company has. You know, everyone's got email, everyone's got files they access. Line of business systems that I can't comment, don't know what you're using for that. Examples include like in a dentist's dental practice management system. I think car vehicular garages, they use a piece of software which will, you know, let you on MOTs. And there's all sorts of different programs which are really specific to your industry. And the golden rule here is if you access it and use it through a web browser like Chrome, Internet Explorer, Firefox, or what have you, if you access it through a web browser, then you should be able to access that from another location. If not, and it's installed on your computer and you have to actually be sat at your computer, we'll cover that in a moment. That's everything for the list of services. So my recommendation, take note of the list, figure out how you're going to use each of those core business services from a remote location. So here are some of the technologies that you can use for the business in general. So if, for example, you're looking to change how you do things, now's not really the time if you're trying to do future work, if you're trying to solve this immediate problem of remote work, here are some tools. So the first one, VPN. This is a classic. This has been around a long time, just a way of dialing into your network from a remote location. Remote control. That's where there's a piece of software on your computer and there's a piece of software on your home computer. And you sit on your home computer, you run a program and you're remote controlling your work computer. Brilliant. Full cloud. That is where your entire infrastructure is cloud-based. That's where you just pick up your computer, leave, plug it in at home, you're good to go. Fantastic. That's the simplest method. That's the simplest method for end users. It's not the simplest to implement in a hurry. So I'm going to go into each one of these and go over a little bit more about how you can use them. So first thing, VPN. This is where you would have most routers and most servers that you might have in your business will have some form of compatibility with VPNs. And you'll know you have a VPN, I think, because if you're on a remote machine, you'll have a little program you double click on. It says connecting to Office, connecting, connected. Then you can access your shared folders. You can access certain business tools. Now, the biggest issue with VPNs is bandwidth. If you want to open a file on your remote location, it relies on not only the bandwidth of your office where the server is, but the bandwidth of your home broadband connection as well. So you've got to bear that in mind. Width is a big problem for VPN. Now, if your business has got an okay broadband line, but you've suddenly now got 50 people remotely connecting to it, you're gonna have a bad time. So that's just one to bear in mind. If you're considering VPN, it's relatively easy to do, but it's not that easy to do safely and securely oneself. Talk to whoever your techie is, have them help you out, and have them tell you which one of these three options will work best for you. Next, security risks on it. If you're going to have a VPN, make sure you've got a good password on it, a horrifyingly complicated and complex password. You're not going to need to type it in every day. Just need to double click on the little icon on your desktop at home. Just make sure you've got some good security on VPN. Remote control, right? This is a quick fix. If you don't have any way of setting up a VPN in a hurry, migrating to the cloud in a hurry, and most of your software needs you to be sitting at your PC without, needs you to have a server in the same building, or needs you to have some software installed on your machine, or you can't access it through a web browser, remote control is a really good method. You install a piece of software on your work PC, you then have a little link on home PC, you double click on it, and suddenly you're remote controlling your work PC. That's a great tool. We IT engineers use it all the time to remotely control customers that we're looking after. We can give you the same ability, and your techies will be able to give you the same ability as well. It's pretty quick to set up. It does not need much internet bandwidth, but it does need two computers. It needs one at the office to dial into and one at your house to connect from. It is a familiar feel to the end users, though. It's something they know and love. And remote control is a nice little quick fix if you're stuck. Just a few examples of tools that are out there. You've got things like Log Me In was a very, very popular one. And Go to Assist is the other one. Those are the two ones I can think of immediately. Now, with both VPN and remote control, that's ways of connecting to your building, which means you need equipment in your building to be switched on. Check with your insurance company about this. If there's going to be no one in your building at all, certain insurance companies do not like that you've got the gas on. They do not like that you've got the electricity switched on. So if there's going to be nobody in your building, but you're leaving all the kit on, check with the insurance company. It may be that you have one person in the office, which should be working on their own. One person in the office, that's check whatever lone worker policies you may have about that. But if you have one person in the office, I believe that might be okay. But again, check this with your insurance company if you intend to leave your building unattended. If you intend to leave your building unattended with equipment switched on. Next one on the list, full cloud. So full cloud, great solution. If you already have it, pick up your machine, take it home, and everything should work fine. Ask your IT people before you do this. It doesn't use a huge amount of bandwidth. Depending on what it is you're doing, you shouldn't need a lot of strong internet. If your internet drops for 5 minutes and you're on a full cloud-based system, there's a high chance you won't even notice. It's really easy to use. Whatever your employees and your colleagues are used to using in the office, that's exactly how it'll work from a remote location. It's not simple to implement in a hurry. It's not something one can do oneself. It's just talk to your techies about it. It's not a quick fix. Something that might, you need to go through the process, work out how you're going to do it, go service by service and figure out whether it's what you should be doing. But it's a great solution. It's a great way of dealing with things. Also, it's future-proof. Full cloud is pretty much where every single business is going. There's a huge amount of remote working taking place, even prior to the mandatory isolation and lockdown. Full cloud is where so many businesses are going with monthly software as a service or everything as a service products. If you're going to be working remotely, there are some security things that are really important to go over. You may have been encountering emails saying, here is an important file you must download, and people are knowing that when you click on them, bad things are going to happen. And so your spam filters will filter them out, or your antivirus software may filter them out. But your users have still got to be trained to be vigilant. Please remind them they still need to be vigilant, because right now there are all sorts of emails coming out from various scamming people telling you, here is a coronavirus-related message that you urgently must read. I mean, look at all these. Please find the attached document on safety measures regarding the spreading of the coronavirus. Download safetymeasures.pdf. That's clearly not a PDF, but it's a nasty. From the World Health Organization, that's really not from the World Health Organization. The reason the hackers are doing it is because it's working. They're getting probably, they're just looking at it in terms of return on investment. If we change our evil marketing campaign, then we'll get 10% more people opening these emails and 10% more companies to go after. We've got enough to be dealing with right now. We do not need to be dealing with hackers, ransomware, and all sorts of security issues. So just make sure your users are aware to be careful what they open. They really have increased. Next, if your employees they're dialing to the office from their home PCs, what security software have they got on it? Do you know what products they're using? Do you know that they haven't been installing dodgy software and may have ended up getting a keylogger, which is logging what they're typing, including the password to dial into your work environment? That's really, really important one to bear in mind. Now, the good news is a lot of antivirus products for businesses, because you've bought a business antivirus, they'll give you a free home antivirus. I don't like that as a method. I would much prefer they all have a business antivirus solution on their home machines, but this is an emergency solution. Additionally, Windows Defender, the free antivirus, again, I'm not a fan of it, but it's actually been ranking pretty highly in some of the antivirus comparison tests in the last year or so. It's not a bad product. So double check, ask your employees if they're dialing in if they're remotely connecting to your office from a home computer, have they got antivirus? And ask your techies, is the antivirus they've got any good? It's just worth checking. If you can as well, two-factor authentication or multi-factor authentication. This is where when you log on to something, so you go to your Gmail account or your accounts package, you log on, type in your username and password, and then it sends you something on your phone, either by a text message, which ain't the greatest method, or by an app, which just bleeps and says, is this authorized? Are you sure you should be doing this? And you press yes. That's two-factor authentication. Because that means even if a hacker knows your password, I don't recommend telling them, even if a hacker knows your password, they still need to have your phone in their hand to log on. So just about everything has it. Most of it is free. LinkedIn has two-factor, Facebook has two-factor, Gmail has it, Xero has it. I believe nearly every bank has it for the online banking. Loads of products have two-factor authentication. It just needs to be switched on. So that is the first section. That's just some headings. That's just some information to go over. We're going to go into a little more detail on communication in the next section, but here's the summary. List all the major software services that you need to access and work through them one by one, figuring out how you can use them from a remote location and how you can keep yourself safe. Ask your techies. If you have an IT company or you have an internal IT technician, ask their opinion. They know your network really well. They should be able to help with each of these items in this list. Help keep you safe, help keep you secure, and help move these products to a more remote-friendly version. And finally, just to repeat, be on the lookout for scams and security issues. I said chaos breeds chaos. It's a little bit of a chaotic circumstance at the moment. Everyone's scrambling to try and figure out how to make their whole business uplift and move it to people's houses. Be aware that sort of chaotic circumstance is what hackers thrive under, is what causes errors, it is what causes panic, and what causes people to make poor decisions. Go through it methodically, figure out how this is going to work. There are ways of moving nearly every business to a remote version of itself. So that's the first section. I believe we've covered everything. I've checked the Q&A. There's no questions at this time. You're most welcome to ask questions whenever you like. I may check them at the end of a section if there's anything that comes up. So moving on to communicating with your colleague. Communication in general. First section, communicating with your colleagues. There are loads and loads of tools that you can use to communicate with each other. I'm sure a lot of businesses are going to be fine just phoning people. No worries. Use your mobile phone if you want to. That's fine. There are lots of ways of collaboratively communicating with people, though. I'm going to divide it up into two sections, business grade and consumer grade. Now, obviously, I'm a business-to-business IT company. I'm always recommending business grade. But I do recognize that the situation right now, some people are worried about finances, some people are worried about how their business is going to run. So I'm going to show you a few consumer grade products as well. So here are three nice business grade products that we recommend, that we've used, that we like. Microsoft Teams. Do you have Microsoft Office 365, the subscription model from Microsoft? Because if you do, you'll have Teams for free already. Teams is brilliant. You can type a message to one person or many, so they can see a message on the screen waiting for them. It's like a chat function. You can call them using a voice service, or you can video chat with them so that you can see them. But you can do that with multiple people. We have a morning meeting, our team and I, every morning about 8:30. We have a 10-minute chat with the whole company. And same at the end of the day as well. There's 18 of us all in one meeting. It's fantastic. It's actually, communication has actually improved because every single person in the company is present. Those who aren't able to make it in that day, they can still make this morning meeting. Teams is a great product that is free, so definitely check it out. It's well worth investigating. Oh, and on another note, if you're on Teams, you can actually share your screen so people can see what is on your screen, which is a fantastic way of collaboratively working on documents. I've worked on documents collaboratively with my colleagues recently a few times, where I load up a Word document on the screen. I share the whole screen so my colleagues can see it. I can see them. We're all in a chat, and I press the button to allow them to also control the computer. So I'm clicking on the document in one place, they're clicking on it in another, and we're just having a look round and we're working together, even though we're not in the same building. Teams is great. Google Hangouts can give you much the same. If you're a G Suite user, Google Hangouts. I skipped Zoom. I'm going to come back to that one now. Zoom meetings is a fantastic system. We're using Zoom Webinar right now. Zoom meetings, you can have a bunch of people gather together in a virtual meeting room. It can scale massively. You can have hundreds of people in it if you really want, but I wouldn't recommend it. Having one or two people all the way up to about 20 people is a pretty reasonable number. You can see each other. You can talk to each other. And best of all, if you're interested in trying it, Zoom is actually free for meetings shorter than 40 minutes. If you want a meeting longer than 40 minutes, you've got to pay. I'm going to go back to my list of services here. SharePoint is a wonderful tool that you can use to replace the file sharing component. So that's option B. Any files that you have accessible, you can access these through SharePoint. But again, if you're not already using it, don't implement it in a hurry. Think about it carefully, go through it piece by piece before you implement it. But SharePoint is a great tool. It's a way of allowing all your users, no matter where they are, to access their shared files. There are loads and loads of advanced things that you can do with it. A lot of very fancy features you can do with SharePoint. However, at this moment, I won't get into too much depth on that. Mainly, it's a file sharing tool for now. You can also use OneDrive, but OneDrive is generally for a user's personal My Documents folder and generally for a user's desktop. So your desktop, your My Docs, your My Pictures, they can all live on OneDrive. We've got another one. What webinar software would you recommend for virtual learning and training? Well, despite the fact that we all just got cut off a few minutes ago, I was a pretty good advocate of Zoom. Zoom is really good. I have a friend of mine in Hong Kong at the moment delivering training, delivering classes, teaching foreign languages using Zoom. It's a brilliant product. It's free to buy, it's free to sign up for the 40-minute limited meetings function. But for the webinar, it's about £35 a month. And that will allow you to host a webinar with up to 100 people in attendance. The next level up allows up to 500 people to be in attendance. So you can scale it massively. I'm just going to check on attendees here. I think we're reasonably back to where we were. I hope I've answered that question there. Again, I'm happy to answer some of these after the meeting as well, if anyone wants some advice on things. So Zoom is a good one, and as is Microsoft Teams. And actually, I'm about to get on in this very next section, other tools that you can use. So I had just covered Teams, I just covered Hangouts. I was in the middle of covering Zoom, and I was just talking about Slack as well. The one thing I was going to mention is we do not, as a company, use Slack. I don't have a huge amount of experience with it, but I know some companies live by it. It's another chat program that you can use, and largely you can do most of the things you want with it for free as well. However, if you would ask what products I really recommend for communicating with your colleagues, it'd be Zoom meetings, and Google Hangouts. Additionally, the busiest time of the day to host a meeting, 9 a.m., 10 a.m., and 2 p.m. That's generally when, if you're going to see problems, you might see some speed issues there. So 9 a.m., 10 a.m., and 2 p.m. And I acknowledge this web meeting was held at 2 p.m. So I'm not quite living by my own ideals there. Next, consumer grade products. These are some consumer grade collaboration products. Not recommended for all businesses, but it depends what you do. It depends whether it applies. WhatsApp groups, fantastic. Yeah, you can add all of it's a free product. You can add all of your colleagues to it, all of your friends to it, and send a message, and everyone's got it. You can also do collaborative video chats and audio chats with it. And for me, this last week, it's actually been a little more reliable than the normal mobile phone network. Facebook Messenger groups, I don't recommend these for business, but they are good to stay in touch with family and friends. Quite a nice little product there. Skype, I'm seeing quite a lot of businesses offer lessons, classes and such through Skype. Skype's free, it's been around forever. Lots of people know how to use it. It's consumer grade, it's easy to use. It's not my favorite product in the world, but it works, it does the job. And this is a little more of a gaming tool, but Discord is, it's not too businessy, but they've just, I think they unlocked their maximum number of participant limit from around it was formerly limited to around 50 people. They've unlocked that, so now multiple people can get on. And the whole point of Discord is 3 or 4 people or 50 people, they can all join one room and talk conversationally amongst one another. And it really does affect how you work. If you've got this sort of permanent phone call going on in the side, some people hate that, some people love that. But you can walk into a room, say hello, I'm back, and they'll all say hi. And it's not quite like a phone call. It sort of changes how you communicate with people. It's quite an interesting one. Again, it's consumer grade, but it's not a bad product. Oh, there's my notice: 9 a.m., 10 a.m., 2 p.m. They're kind of the worst times of day to have an online meeting. Try starting at past or 10 past. So that was communicating with colleagues. This is communicating with your customers. To start with, we're going to do phones. If you have a phone system, if it's modern, if it's a reasonably modern system, there should be a little app allowing you to use voice over IP. So you install a little app on your mobile phone, and then you are as good as on the phone system from a remote location. That's great. If your phone system has that, use it. That's fantastic. You can just pick up and carry on. If you think your phone system might have that, talk to your telecoms people or talk to your IT people about whether they can get it working for you. That's a real nice, easy win there if you have that functionality. If you don't have a VoIP app, you don't have a VoIP compatible system, okay. What you do, most phone systems, all of them, allow you to forward an individual extension to a mobile. Now, there are a few little caveats with that to bear in mind. If someone makes a call going in to your phone system, and then your phone system forwards it going out, you just use two of your active phone lines. You've used 2 phone lines, and if you're on an old ISDN system with 4 phone lines or 8 phone lines, you just use 2 of them for 1 phone call. Additionally, if your phone system is forwarding to your mobile, you will be charged for that call, because it's as if your phone system is calling that mobile for however long the phone call may be. So it will cost you not very much. It's just worth knowing. This next one here. Yes. If you are forwarding calls to your colleagues and they're taking calls on their mobile, if they then need to return a call to the customer, you can choose to withhold the number from their phone, because otherwise you'll end up with all your customers will start calling all of your colleagues on their direct dial mobiles, and it'll never end. It'll alter and affect the communication flow through your business if you're not used to working in that manner. Now, I'll tell you how to do it on an iPhone. It's a nice and simple option. If you go into settings on your iPhone, you scroll down, you press phone, and then there's an option to say, show my caller ID. I'm not going to show you my phone. Show my caller ID off on. So if you want to withhold your mobile number when you're communicating with people, do. But bear in mind, if you do that, if you call your colleagues, it'll just show as unknown number. Okay, you don't have a phone system. You just have one phone on a table. That's fine. You can forward all your calls. Nearly every phone provider in the world has such a function. I believe for BT, it's you dial *21*, and there's some option that comes up there. But check with your phone provider what you can do. You can forward it even if you want to telephone answering services. If anyone wants some recommendations, I know there's a very good one in Stafford that does telephone call answering. There is also some other services. You can forward all your calls to an answering service if you wish. It's worth configuring your phone system to have a custom greeting on it, just as a way of telling your customers what's going on. Maybe there's an increased wait time. Maybe you're telling them you're on temporary shutdown and you will be back. Maybe it's telling them we will be forwarding all calls to mobiles, transferring may take a moment. Something like that. The mobile phone networks, yeah, they have been a bit shaky. You may not be receiving all your calls on your mobiles. I've had some drops and disconnections. I've known many people who've experienced the same. I don't think there's too much to worry about. You just need to try the phone call again. Communicating with customers by email. So, firstly, remote access to email. There are all sorts of ways of accessing your email remotely. Loads of different ways of doing it. So, for example, if you're an Office 365 user or a Google G Suite user, most of those email services are available online. You just fire up the web browser, and I believe for Office 365, it's office.com. I can't remember the G Suite one. But if you use Office 365, specifically the Office 365 product known as Hosted Exchange, which comes with most of the Office 365 packages, if you're using that for email, you should be absolutely fine to access your email from a remote location, no problem. If you are unable for any reason to access your regular email account, which should be a really unusual circumstance, but if for any reason you can't, you can configure your email to auto forward. You can also configure your email to have automated replies to itself, so that you could say, our response time may be delayed at the moment while we are dealing with such and such. There are some links at the end of this presentation, and I'm going to try and make the presentation available as a PDF so that you can have you can use the links in it. But there's links to 3 guides for Office 365 users on how to forward email and how to set up auto replies. A lot of whether you can do auto reply, auto forward, and remote access, that depends on who provides your email. So double check with whoever provides your email. Mailing lists. Public safety announcement here before I do mailing lists. I'm willing to bet that most of you have had an email from just about everybody you've ever met in the last 10 years telling you what they're doing about coronavirus. Frankly, I'm not particularly bothered that the crazy golf course I once went to in Orlando is open for business or remote working. I'm not too bothered by that. And as such, try and avoid being one of the companies that generates these kind of messages. This was something I pulled off Twitter. Made me realize just how many emails I need to unsubscribe from. So don't be annoying with your mailing. Don't be annoying with your mailing. If you feel, you know your customers, you know if they'll want to know or not about your current state of affairs, whether you're up and running, whether you're on temporary shutdown, whether the business is closing. You know your customers, you know whether they'll want to know that. So decide carefully if you want to know. So I've given them a warning. The ways of sending out email en masse, your CRM system. Your CRM system will probably have a function to handle this. Whatever company management system you do will probably have a tool to allow you to send messages to multiple customers. That's the best one to use if you have it. If you don't, MailChimp is a product you can use. Check with the GDPR regs. People are supposed to opt into mailing lists. Double check to make sure you're not breaking any rules. Because if they didn't agree to be on a mailing list, you shouldn't be emailing them. You may have to just sit down and write a lot of emails or copy and paste the same email to everybody. MailChimp's pretty good. It's pretty easy to use. So if you need a mailing list tool, that's one I like. And yeah, just a reiteration, don't overwhelm the customers with announcements all the time. The next section, communicating with customers via video conference. Now, this is something that we at my company have been doing for quite a while. It does save down on travel time, and we have some customers internationally who it's just impractical to meet with them on a regular basis. So Microsoft Teams and Zoom, Love it. It's a great little product. Sorry, they are great little products. They're fantastic ways of having catch-ups with your customers where you can see them, you can video chat with them, you can invite multiple people if you really want to. So these are great tools. Additionally, people are rarely late to web meetings. It's an interesting one. You ever turned up at a customer's place at noon to find not ready until 1:15? That does happen. People are rarely late for web meetings. It just seems to be a personality thing. Next, buy a webcam if you can. Yeah, it's quite hard to get hold of a webcam right now, would you believe? Good news, if you've got a laptop, you've probably got a webcam. If you've got a laptop without a webcam, I question how old a laptop might be. Places that can supply webcams generally to individuals, either techies can do it, or Amazon, Tesco, Asda. Brilliant. You can buy all of these online. And also, if you're really stuck, you can use your Xbox camera. Unplug it from your Xbox, plug it into your PC. That has been known to work, and that could be usable as an emergency webcam if you really need a webcam. So that's just a top tip. Before you start your web meetings, test your microphone and speaker. Now, you wouldn't have encountered this with this Zoom meeting, but before I joined, it gave me a message to say, would you like to do a test? Would you like to test your microphone and speaker? And I believe some of you who've seen my little YouTube video on how to connect to these meetings, you've seen there's a little bit in there on testing your microphone and speaker. So test it before it begins if you can. And lastly, errors are going to happen. It's, like us all getting cut off 15 minutes ago. That happens. Little errors can happen. Not naming any famous events that happened with the BBC last year, but things can happen. You've got funny noises in the background, pets suddenly turning up. That's okay. I think everyone can understand that that sort of thing might happen during times like this. Okay, summary of that section. Teams, Zoom, Hangouts. Great products for your customers or your employees to all keep in contact with each other. I recommend checking out one of them. My favorite's Teams. That's just because that's what we use regularly. Zoom is a great product if you're looking to deliver some services online. That's worth investigating. Next, check what your phone system is capable of. If you can do VoIP on your phone system, do it. If not, ask me. Phone systems are pretty quick to deploy a new phone system if you want, would you believe? It's not a complicated matter. So check what your phone system can do, and the best option will be, if you have a VoIP capable phone system, to get everyone installing the app on their mobile phone or on their laptop from home, getting a headset. Here's a nice Plantronics headset, nothing fancy, it's just a USB that plugs into your computer, and then suddenly your entire computer is a phone. Use remote email wherever you can. And if you're on shutdown or you want to give people notifications that you might be slow getting back to them, use auto reply. It's not too complex to set up at all. So that's section 2 of 3. Third section is a little bit smaller, you may be relieved to know. We're going to cover the human impact of working remotely. Now, as I've said, I've worked remotely on my own for about 18 months now, and yeah, it can be a bit rubbish, especially if especially if you're the only one. It is quite handy that most people will all be dialing into team meetings through video chat right now, but just bear in mind how your team's going to be feeling. So firstly, we're going to do the negatives, then we're going to do the positives. Extroverts can really hate it. People who really like being with people, salespeople often this happens to. Introverts can love it. Now, that doesn't apply to everyone, but it's worth checking in with the people, checking in with your team, ask how they're feeling, see if they're all right. If suddenly a team of 30 people is now working from 30 different houses, make sure people are okay. It's quite important. Isolation can be tough. And yeah, to start with, it can be interesting and new, and then after a while you start doing silly things. Yeah, isolation can be tough. You're stuck either on your own or with the family, which is sometimes great, sometimes not so great. So that can lead to people getting quite stressed out. A lot of people are stressed out right now. They're worrying about their businesses, and there's a lot of tension building up at home. There's been a significant increase in call volumes to domestic violence helplines. Be aware of everyone's stress levels, look after each other, check in with each other. I've just said that. Just said we have, just so you know, we have a morning meeting and an afternoon meeting, 10, 15 minutes at most. We've even started doing a lunchtime meeting. Some of my colleagues have even started having lunch with the camera on in their own homes, just so they can have a chat about nothing. Because don't forget, if you're holding meetings online, it's all business. Leave personal time before or after the meeting. If you fancy it, have lunch together. I've sat down with my colleagues having a drink at the end of the day on a camera. It feels a bit ridiculous, but it can be a bit fun. It's just having the social side of business. It's not all work. Teams is a great product. Hangouts is a great product. And Zoom is a great product for this. All of these can help. We're actually finding we're calling each other out of hours quite a bit as well. I think that's something that will be a bit temporary with a lot of businesses while everyone's in problem-solving mode. So just be mindful of that. Team attention levels versus work output. This is in here as a warning, not as a recommendation. Don't worry what your colleagues are doing with their day. They may be at home wearing a dressing gown. They may be playing with the dog. They may have gone out for a slightly extended break and you don't know. Focus on whether the job is getting done. Don't try and micromanage everybody and what they're doing with every second of the day if you don't. I mean, some companies may be culturally designed like that. I prefer not to recommend people do that. There's all sorts of tools out there you can spy on people with, but I don't advocate any of them. It's not a good route forward. It's a slippery slope. Concentrate on the work output. If your company uses KPIs and deliverables per department, worry about that. And then find your time checking in on everyone, see if they're happy. And this one, a little bit of health one. I said I wasn't going to go health advice, so just one to bear in mind. Headaches and water. Yeah. People generally don't stare at a screen all day. Generally, when they have a meeting, they're staring at a person. You're going to see a lot of people staring at screens right now, which is, people are getting headaches. It happens. So don't forget to drink water. People have their routine a little bit messed with because of this. So, right. We'll go on to the positives. Firstly, there are some pretty beautiful working environments right now. Don't forget that. The amount of communication that seems to be going on now with all these various online tools, it really helps focus people on common goals. Some companies do have trouble with that. They have trouble getting all the team on the same page, working on one project all together, working on a common goal. Right now, everyone's got a fairly common goal of solve this problem, find out how to work remotely, find out how to do business as normal, find out how to keep the business open. That seems everyone's focusing on one thing, and that really does help. That really does help the business a lot. Use the opportunity that everyone's now in team meetings. I've been an activist for remote working for so long. It really helps focus your time, your efforts, focus the mission as a company. Remote working is actually pretty positive. Working on your own, depending on the personality type, but working on your own can really improve your concentration levels. There is a book I recommend for anyone by the name of Deep Work. It's Deep Work. It's available on Amazon, available on Audible, just worth checking out. It's about how you can use time to focus on issues. If you're on one of these many chat programs that I keep blathering on about, you can mute the chat if you want to. You can silence the chat. People aren't going to walk up to you to distract you, not colleagues anyway. They're going to send you a message on one of these tools, and you can get back to it at the end of your whatever it is you're working on at that time. It really does allow people to focus on work so much more efficiently. There can be productivity benefits during transitions like what we're all going through. People will be in this new thing. Maybe they're trying to prove that working from home is something that they'd really like you as business owners and business leaders to keep. Maybe it's just a different change of scene is helping. Maybe the distraction cut down is less distracting. Some people stress, some people thrive. Do everything you can to try and make your team thrive under these circumstances. Yeah, I don't know many people who enjoy commuting, but there's a lot less commuting. That means more time in bed, more time with the family, which is hopefully a good thing. more time off the road, less commuting. It's a pretty nice thing. Finally, as I say, I've been an advocate for remote working for a long time. There is a reason why serviced offices were, before December, were experiencing a bit of a boom. A lot of people are working remotely. A lot of people are working from remote locations. And if your team adapt well to this, then it can be here to stay. You might find you're not even needing to move back into your office, maybe. Service industries will have this a lot better than most. Certain industries like manufacturing, that'll be slightly different. Warehousing and distribution, there are other ways around that too. But all sectors will have a different way of benefiting from remote working. You just need to find it. This is the penultimate slide. Slight hobbies, entertainment and technology, and how technology can help with hobbies and entertainment. Firstly, loads and loads of services are going online only during this isolation period. In the last couple of weeks, I have witnessed the e-care classes, Weight Watchers, yoga classes, pole dancing classes, piano lessons, singing lessons, pub quizzes, all suddenly online. I do a little bit of online gaming with friends, so that also helps. But loads and loads of businesses can do this. It's not just for big business. It's not just for businesses with 50 or so people. If you find you're a sole trader who delivers training courses, or you deliver teaching, there's loads of that online now. Loads of tools out there. I believe the Open University launched a load of free courses for people recently, knowing that people are going to be stuck at home. There's loads of fantastic things that you can be doing. To reiterate, Teams, Discord, WhatsApp chat, great tools that you can use to stay in touch with each other. I won't say Teams again. Yeah, I won't. Headspace, if any of you use this sort of mindfulness meditation app, they're giving away free sessions on their website. There is a link at the end that you can use. Broadband providers, they're giving away free data upgrades. I believe Virgin were giving 10 gig upgrades, and I believe BT were removing some data limits on things. I mentioned earlier at the beginning, the internet is not having a huge amount of trouble right now. There are plenty of tools, there are plenty of offers out there from the providers that you can use to enhance and improve how things go. I recommend checking with whoever provides your internet. This is generally for home use rather than business use, I should stress. And finally, if you have kids, Audible Stories. Audible is my favorite audiobook provider. Audible Stories is giving away, they say no strings attached, free books for children and families, so that you've now got storybooks that you can use as audiobooks. Fantastic. That's just another example. And these, when I mentioned at the beginning that this isn't up to date, that's because these things are coming out all the time. You're going to see loads of this happening in the coming weeks. So finally, here is a list of links. I will not read through them. I will try and make this entire presentation available as a PDF if you wish to have access to it. But those are some of the things I've talked about today. But of course, if you want advice on anything, my contact information is there. Feel free to email me if you want some pointers on things. I'm most happy to talk to people. Yeah, I'm just going to check to see if there are any outstanding questions. There are not. Good. I'm going to invite Laura back now because I believe. No, in fact, I can finish up there actually. Any questions? Feel free to email me. Thank you very much, and wash your hands.